In the shadowed streets of Halcyon Ridge, memories aren't always your own, and the truth can be stolen. Tonight, one woman will face a mind-altering conspiracy where reality is fragile and every memory could be a lie. This is the story of Dr. Aria Voss and the city that may never forget or forgive.
In the sprawling city of Halcyon Ridge, where midnight fog rolled between steel towers like restless ghosts, the cold glow of neon was the only thing that kept the darkness from swallowing the streets whole. It was a place where secrets outnumbered people, and the truth, when it surfaced, had teeth. And on a night that began like all others, Dr. Aria Voss woke to a truth she didn't recognize, a truth that wasn't hers. She shot up in her bed, breath torn from her chest, sweat sliding down her spine. Her eyes darted around the room as if expecting shadows to lunge at her. For a long moment, she didn't move, didn't blink, didn't trust her own heartbeat. Because the memory she had just lived, so vivid, so textured, so violently real, was impossible. She remembered killing a man, not a dream, not a hallucination, a memory. She remembered the exact scent of the warehouse, rust, gasoline, and cold grit, the way the light filtered through cracked windows, pooling in dusty columns, the trembling tension in her own hands as she lifted a steel rod. No, not a rod, a wrench, a heavy one, and the scream, his scream. She remembered bringing the wrench down, and she remembered the silence that followed. Aria's breaths came in chaotic waves. She pushed herself off the bed, legs weak, feet dragging across the apartment floor as though guilt itself was weighing her down. But there was a detail, one she couldn't ignore. The man's face. She didn't know him. She had never seen him before. And yet, her mind insisted she had killed him with her own hands. She stumbled toward the bathroom mirror, bracing herself against the counter. Her reflection stared back at her. Tired eyes, disheveled hair, the early signs of a woman who slept 3 hours a night and spent the rest fighting deadlines. But under the exhaustion was something new, fear. "Get it together," she whispered, though her voice didn't convince even her. Aria Voss was a neuroscientist, one of the leading experts in memory transfer technology. She had dedicated her life to mapping out the fragile architecture of human recollection, to systematize it, to control it, to improve it. She knew how memories worked, how they formed, how they could be altered or rewritten under specific conditions. She understood all of it, and that was what terrified her. Because she knew the human mind couldn't fabricate a memory this detailed unless someone engineered it. She didn't run from the fear. She tore it apart with logic. If the memory wasn't hers, someone had implanted it. The realization hit like a hammer. Her prototype, the one she designed, the one restricted to only a handful of encrypted systems, the one that, if misused, could reshape reality for whoever controlled it. Someone had used her work against her. But why? Before she could think further, her phone buzzed. It vibrated with the persistence of someone who needed immediate attention. Aria reached for it with trembling fingers. It was a message from Detective Rowan Creed, Halcyon Ridge Police Department's most relentless investigator. A man she had worked with before on ethically questionable memory cases. The message read, "Aria, I need you at the precinct. Urgent. Possible breakthrough in the Midland Warehouse homicide." Aria froze. The Midland Warehouse, the exact place from her implanted memory. Her blood turned to ice. She typed back with shaky hands, "On my way." As she grabbed her coat and rushed out the apartment door, the city greeted her like a silent accomplice. Halcyon Ridge, with its flickering streetlights and humming neon signs, had a way of watching people, studying them, consuming them. By the time she reached the precinct, her pulse was still in chaos. Detective Creed was waiting outside the interrogation wing, tall and stern, his coat hanging heavy around him. He had a stare that could peel the truth out of anyone, but tonight, even he looked unsettled. "Aria," he said, motioning her over, "we got something big. You're not going to believe this." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "Try me." Creed ran a hand through his hair. "We found someone who claims to have killed the victim." Aria's stomach twisted. "Someone confessed?" "Not exactly." Creed lowered his voice. "They have detailed memories of the murder. Every angle, every sound. It's like they were there. But the kicker..." He paused, jaw tightening. "The victim's alive, completely unharmed." Aria felt the ground sway. "What do you mean alive?" she whispered. "He walked into the station this morning to report a stolen vehicle." Creed rubbed his temples. "Then 30 minutes later, we get a call from a woman across town saying she remembers killing him." Aria's heart hammered. The pattern wasn't random. Creed started walking down the hallway, and Aria followed. "We're talking full sensory memories," he continued. "Smell of the place, temperature, lighting, details no one could fake. No motive, no connection, nothing. The woman who came forward doesn't even know the guy." Aria swallowed hard. "And what exactly do you need me for?" "Your expertise," Creed said. "You study memory transfer, brain manipulation. We need to know if something like this is possible." Possible. The word echoed through her mind like a cruel joke. As they walked into the observation room, Aria saw the woman sitting alone on the other side of the glass. Pale, shaking, haunted, like someone who had seen their own ghost. Creed folded his arms. "She's the third one this week." Aria's gaze snapped to him. "Third?" "Yeah," Creed exhaled. 3 people claiming to have committed 3 different murders, victims all alive. Aria's pulse thudded painfully. This wasn't random. This was coordinated. Creed turned to her. "Aria, what the hell is happening to these people?" She took a slow breath, steadying herself as she stepped closer to the glass, studying the woman inside. What the hell was happening? The truth was something she didn't want to say out loud. Someone was stealing criminal memories. Real ones. From real criminals, and dumping them into random innocent minds. For what purpose? She didn't yet know. But she recognized the pattern. The emotional echo, the sensory fidelity, the neurological consistency. It was the exact signature of her own technology, a technology no one outside her lab was supposed to have. Creed spoke again. "Do you think someone's using drugs? Hypnosis? Psychological coercion?" Aria shook her head. "No," she said quietly. "This isn't persuasion, this is implantation." Creed stared at her. "Implantation? You mean memories put into someone's mind?" "Yes," she swallowed. "I think someone is using a memory transfer device." Creed exhaled sharply. "That tech's not even public." "I know," Aria whispered, "which means someone stole it." Creed stepped closer. "Who could do something like this?" Aria's voice was barely audible. "Someone who knows my work." Silence settled between them. Heavy. Dreadful. Creed's eyes narrowed. "There's another problem." Aria tensed. "What?" Creed motioned for her to follow him again. They walked into the tech lab, where a cluster of officers stood around a holographic display. A list of names flickered on the screen. Victims, suspects, timestamps, all part of the police's ongoing investigations. Creed pointed to the list. All 3 people who received fake memories had memories of these crimes. Crimes we're actively investigating, high-profile ones. Aria felt a chill crawl up her spine. Someone wasn't just planting memories. Someone was generating chaos. Flooding the police with false confessions. Obscuring real investigations. "Whoever is doing this," Creed said, "is trying to bury the truth." Aria's voice trembled with realization. "They're using memory implants to derail law enforcement." Creed nodded slowly. "And if they're going to this much trouble," Aria finished his thought for him, "then something bigger is coming." For a moment, the room felt smaller, suffocating. Creed turned to her with hard, determined eyes. "Aria, you need to tell me something. Is anyone else capable of using your tech at this level? Anyone at all?" Aria hesitated. In the back of her mind, a shadow stirred. A name she tried to forget. A colleague who knew too much. A friend turned rival. A genius with no moral boundaries. Dr. Elias Mercer. But saying his name out loud felt like opening a door she wasn't ready to face. So she said nothing. Instead, she whispered, "I need to see the victims." Creed nodded and led her onward. As they stepped into the holding area, Aria felt the weight of what was unfolding. 3 people sat in isolation rooms, each trembling, each haunted by memories of crimes they did not commit. The first was a middle-aged man staring blankly at his hands, rubbing them as if trying to wash off invisible blood. The second, a teenager, crying softly with her knees pulled to her chest. The third, a woman trembling violently, whispering apologies to someone who wasn't dead. This wasn't madness. This wasn't coincidence. This was orchestration. Aria's whisper was barely audible. This is only the beginning. And somewhere, in a dark room lit only by the pulse of stolen technology, a figure watched their plan unfold, preparing the next memory, preparing the next victim, preparing to erase the truth itself. Because the greatest crime was still yet to happen, and no one, not even Aria, was ready for it. The precinct's fluorescent lights hummed with a faint, uneasy buzz, like the building itself sensed something was deeply wrong. Detective Creed stood beside Aria as she moved through the holding area, her eyes shifting from one distraught, memory-plagued victim to another. Each innocent person bore the weight of a crime they believed they had committed. Each carried fear that did not belong to them. Each was an unwilling vessel for someone else's darkness. Aria took slow, controlled breaths. She needed clarity. She needed her mind to function with surgical precision. But the memory of holding that wrench, the weight of it, the coldness of it, kept stabbing at her thoughts. She hadn't killed anyone. She knew she hadn't. But the memory felt real enough to make her doubt. Creed watched her quietly. He wasn't a man who missed details. He noticed the tremor in her hands, the tension in her voice, the unspoken fear behind her eyes. "Aria," he said carefully, "is something going on with you? Something you're not telling me?" She forced her expression still. "I'm fine." Creed frowned. He didn't believe her. But he also knew she would talk when ready, or when she broke, whichever came first. "We pulled EEG scans from all 3 victims," Creed said, guiding her toward the lab. "Maybe you can make sense of them." Aria followed him into a room filled with monitors and holographic neural models. Screens displayed patterns, neural firing sequences, electrical spikes, memory cluster mapping. At first glance, it looked like chaos, but Aria's trained mind saw something else. A signature. The same imprint appeared across all 3 victims. Not natural, not accidental, engineered. She moved closer, eyes darting across the data. "Run an index scan," she instructed. A technician typed rapidly, data realigned, neural trails reorganized, and suddenly, there it was, a memory seam, a microscopic discontinuity where one memory lattice had been grafted onto another, almost invisible, almost perfect. Aria's breath caught. "Someone used a direct transfer interface," she whispered, voice shaking. "A high-bandwidth neural bridge, exactly like the prototype I designed 2 years ago." Creed stared at her. "Are you saying the stolen memories came from actual criminals?" "Yes," Aria replied. "These aren't fabricated memories. Someone extracted genuine recollections from real offenders and implanted them into innocent people." Creed exhaled sharply, backing up as if the idea itself was physically dangerous. "Why would anyone do that?" Aria's eyes stayed locked on the data. "To create false suspects, to drown investigators in contradictions, to corrupt the evidentiary chain. If every potential witness suddenly remembers committing a crime, then we can't trust any testimony," Creed finished. "We can't pursue any lead. We can't verify anything." Aria nodded grimly. "Exactly. It collapses the investigative process from the inside." The realization hit Creed like a punch. This is deliberate sabotage. Aria didn't answer. The truth was evident. Someone wasn't just trying to hide a crime. They were trying to destroy the very ability to identify one. Creed paced the room. Whoever did this, what are they preparing for? Aria stared at the neural data, the same pattern replicated 3 times. Implantations this clean weren't easy. They required precision, skill, knowledge of her algorithms, knowledge only one other person had, her former colleague, her former partner, Dr. Elias Mercer. Aria tried to push the name away, but it sank its claws into her thoughts like a dark truth that refused to stay buried. Elias had been brilliant, charismatic, fearless, a visionary who believed morality was just another variable to adjust. They had built the prototype together, worked side by side. But Elias wanted more. He wanted to weaponize memory, to sell it, to use it, to control perception, identity, reality itself. When Aria refused to support his unethical experiments, he disappeared, vanishing with copies of her research. He had warned her once, "Reality is fragile, Aria. If you can rewrite memory, you can rewrite truth." She hadn't seen him since, but now it felt like he was everywhere. Creed interrupted her thoughts. "Aria, you're pale. Talk to me. Do you have any idea who might be behind this?" She hesitated. A long, heavy silence followed. Then she lied. "No, but I can find out." Creed narrowed his eyes. "You sure about that?" Aria's answer came with a forced steadiness. "Yes, I just need access to the victim's psychological matrices." Creed nodded to the technicians. "Give her whatever she needs." As they collected the data, Aria felt the weight of her hidden truth press harder against her ribs. She wasn't just an investigator in this. She was a victim too. She had been implanted. She had been targeted. And whoever did it sent her a message. This wasn't random. This was personal. Hours later, the precinct buzzed with tension. Officers hurried back and forth, phones rang without pause, and detectives argued over conflicting testimonies. Chaos. Exactly what the perpetrator wanted. Aria stood in a dim corner of the lab, reviewing the neural sequences again. Each victim displayed the same transfer pattern. Each memory had been forcibly inserted along the hippocampal ridge using a pulse technique that only one person had ever mastered. Elias Mercer. Her chest tightened. Suddenly, a loud commotion erupted from the hallway. An officer shouted, "We've got another one!" Creed and Aria rushed out. Two officers escorted a terrified young man into the building. His legs buckled with every step. Tears streamed down his face as he clutched his arms like he was freezing. "I did it," he sobbed. "I killed her. I killed her. Please, just arrest me." Creed moved toward him. "Slow down. Tell us what happened." The man shook violently. She begged me to stop. I hit her. I hit her so many times." Aria's blood ran cold. This was the fourth one. Another implanted memory. Another orchestrated confession. Another innocent dragged into a nightmare. But then, the officer beside them swallowed hard and said, "Detective, we checked. The victim he's describing." Creed turned sharply. "What about her? She's alive. She's at home right now. Absolutely fine." Creed clenched his jaw. "Great. Another false confession." Aria's hands trembled. Not because of the man's breakdown, but because the pattern was escalating. The transfers were becoming more frequent, closer together. Whoever was doing this was accelerating their plan. Creed pulled Aria aside. "At this rate, half the city will confess to crimes they never committed. We'll be paralyzed." Aria nodded slowly. "That's the point. They're preparing something." Creed's voice dropped. "You think this is leading up to a major crime?" Aria looked him directly in the eyes. "No, Rowan. Not just a major crime. The perfect crime." Creed backed up, breath catching. "If they can erase memories, implant memories, distort timelines, they can make the real perpetrator untraceable," Aria said. "They can make 30 innocent people confess while the real criminal walks free." Creed cursed under his breath. "We need to stop this now." "Yes," Aria said quietly. "And I need to tell you something." He turned to her, expectant. She hesitated. Should she tell him? Should she admit that she herself had been implanted? Should she reveal that she was compromised, that the perpetrator was taunting her? Her heart pounded. But before she could speak, an alarm blared through the precinct. Monitors flashed red. Technicians shouted. Creed grabbed her arm. "What the hell is happening?" The nearest officer yelled over the noise. "Someone just hacked into the precinct's memory database." Aria froze. No, this couldn't be happening. The memory archive was where the police stored decades of case files, neural recordings, witness statements, and investigative metadata. If someone gained access to it, Creed's voice cut through the chaos. Aria, what would they want with the archive? Her whisper came out hollow. To rewrite it. Creed stared at her, horrified. To erase evidence, Aria continued. To rewrite testimonies. To alter timelines. To destroy the truth, Creed whispered. Aria nodded. And to finish the crime they've been preparing for. Suddenly, the screens all went black. A single symbol flickered into existence. A spiral of interlocking neural pathways, a logo only 2 people in the world would recognize. Elias Mercer's signature. Aria's breath caught in her throat. He was here. He was watching. He was making his move. And Halcyon Ridge had no idea what was about to hit it. The symbol pulsed faintly on every screen in the precinct, a spiraling lattice of neural pathways, rotating slowly like a living thing. Officers froze mid-stride, conversations died mid-sentence, and even the hum of the fluorescent lights seemed to dim as the logo glowed with cold confidence. Aria's breath hitched. Elias Mercer had left his mark, his message, his presence. But more than that, his challenge. Detective Creed reacted first, snapping out of the stunned silence. "Cut power to the building! Now!" he barked. Technicians scrambled to execute the command, but the screens didn't respond. The power grid didn't flicker. The system didn't even acknowledge the shutdown attempt. Aria's stomach twisted. "Rowan, he's not in our system." Creed turned to her sharply. "What are you saying?" "He's overriding from remote memory nodes." She pointed to the screens. "This isn't a hack into your database. He's overwritten the entire interface. Every terminal is now running off an external neural server." The technician closest to them swore under his breath. "He's controlling our entire network?" Aria nodded slowly. "Not controlling. Replacing." Creed clenched his teeth. "What the hell does he want?" The symbol on the screens dissolved. Static washed over the displays like a rolling wave. Then the static sharpened into grainy footage, video from a security camera somewhere in the city. The room fell silent. It was a warehouse, dim, cavernous, lit by a single hanging bulb that swung slightly as if disturbed moments before. Stacks of crates lined the walls, and standing in the center was Elias Mercer. His face was shadowed, but unmistakable. Sharp features, calm eyes, hands folded behind his back with professorial arrogance. He looked into the camera, into the precinct, into Aria. He spoke, his voice distorted by audio corruption, but chillingly clear. "Hello, Aria." Her heart stopped. Creed's eyes snapped to her. "You know him." Aria didn't answer. Couldn't. Elias continued. "It's been a long time. I see you've been busy." He smirked faintly. "So have I." The officers glanced at one another uneasily. Every word from the man on the screen felt like a blade sliding deeper into the room. "I assume by now you've realized the nature of my work." Aria whispered under her breath. "Memory redistribution." Elias tilted his head as if he had heard her. "Ingenious, isn't it? The human mind, so fragile, so impressionable, so reprogrammable." Creed stepped closer to the screen. "What do you want?" he demanded. Elias ignored him completely. "This is a demonstration," Elias said softly. "A small preview of what's possible when memory is liberated from the constraints of biology or morality." Aria's jaw trembled. "Elias, stop this." For the first time, he looked directly, painfully directly at the camera, at her. "Don't worry, Aria. This is only a rehearsal. The real event is still to come." The footage glitched, frames tearing, colors smearing. Then something new appeared on the screen. A countdown. 4 numbers. Bright red. Unblinking. 48 hours, Elias said gently. "When the clock hits 0, the truth will vanish." Creed's voice thundered. "Vanish? What the hell does that mean?" But Elias wasn't talking to him. "Aria," he said, "you always were the only one capable of keeping up. Try to stop me. I would enjoy that." The screen went black. The countdown replaced the logo on every terminal in the precinct. 48 hours. A digital heartbeat ticking relentlessly downward. Silence crushed the room. Creed turned to Aria slowly. "Start talking, now." She inhaled sharply, trying to calm the storm inside her chest. "His name is Dr. Elias Mercer. We built the prototype together. He believed memory should be unrestricted, that identity is fluid, changeable, that the psyche is just data to be edited. Creed's voice hardened. And you think he's behind everything? I know he is, Aria whispered. The neural signatures match his method. The precision, the psychological embedding. It's his work. Creed cursed under his breath. Why target random civilians? Aria's eyes drifted toward the red countdown. He's creating noise, distracting law enforcement, flooding your system with false leads so no one sees the real threat. Creed stepped closer. Which is? Aria met his eyes with a chilling certainty. He's going to erase something or someone from reality. They moved to the briefing room, now transformed into a war room. Every screen showed the same countdown. 47:35, 47:34, ticking like a metronome for disaster. Officers circled around, trading theories, but Aria focused on one point, the memory archive. Halcyon Ridge's entire investigative history, witness interviews, crime scene reconstructions, mental state captures, was stored in that system. If Elias rewrote enough of it, he could destroy decades of justice. What would he target first? Creed asked. Aria scanned the evidence board. A case with too many moving parts, too much evidence, too many witnesses, something high-profile enough that rewriting it would cause irreversible collapse. Creed sifted through files. We've got 7 ongoing major cases. Organized crime, trafficking, political corruption. Aria froze. One file sat isolated at the edge of the board, unconnected to the others. Untouched. Almost forgotten. A cold case. 10 years old. A mass disappearance of 6 individuals, all tied to illegal neurological experimentation. Aria stepped closer, breath shallow. That case. She remembered it. Elias had been interviewed as a witness at the time. She had defended him, believed in him, trusted him. Creed noticed her stare. What is it? That, Aria whispered, was the last major investigation Elias was ever associated with. Creed's jaw tightened. You're saying he's going to delete the case? No, Aria said, pulse quickening. He's going to finish it. The implications hung in the air like smoke. Creed grabbed the file. These victims, they were all part of neurological trials gone wrong. The suspect fled. The evidence was never conclusive. Aria nodded slowly. Because the suspect engineered memory loss in the witnesses. Evidence of memory manipulation was found at the scene. That's why the case went cold. Creed stared at her. You think Elias was the suspect? There's no doubt anymore, Aria said. He's preparing to wipe every memory trail that links him to those crimes. And if he does, Creed said grimly, he walks clean forever. Aria exhaled shakily. He doesn't just want to escape the past. He wants to rewrite it. As the room spiraled into focused chaos, Aria slipped away to the observation chamber. She needed silence, space, air. But as soon as she stepped inside, her knees nearly buckled. The victims, the implanted memories. The countdown, Elias's voice, and her own false memory. The warehouse, the wrench, the man she killed. Her own mind had been violated. She sank into a chair, burying her face in her hands, fighting the fear clawing at her ribs. A moment later, the door creaked open. Detective Creed entered quietly. Aria. She didn't look up. He took a slow step toward her. When were you going to tell me? Silence. Aria, you have one of the implants, don't you? Her breath caught. She finally lifted her eyes, shining, shaken, defeated. Yes, she whispered. He put one in me. Creed absorbed the truth without flinching. When? This morning. I woke up with it. A murder I never committed. Creed's jaw clenched. Why target you? Aria swallowed. Because I'm the only one who can stop him. Creed stepped closer. Then we stop him together. Aria looked at him, eyes full of turmoil. Rowan, you don't understand. If the implant destabilizes, if the false memories start replacing my real ones, what then? I won't know who I am, she said softly. Creed's voice lowered. Then we don't let it get that far. But the truth hung heavy between them. The countdown ticked down another minute. Aria's mind was a battlefield, and Elias Mercer was already fighting from inside her head. Back in the main lab, technicians shouted for attention. Detective Creed, Dr. Voss, we have something! They hurried in. A new feed had appeared on the screens, coordinates traced from the signal of the hacked systems. A location. One Aria knew too well. She whispered the name like a curse. The Meridian Institute. Creed frowned. Your old research facility? Aria nodded numbly. It's where Elias and I built the first memory transfer device. The technician zoomed in on the coordinates, and the countdown overlaid the map. 47 hours. Elias Mercer had drawn his battlefield, the place where everything began, the place where everything would end. Aria stared at the glowing map with a mixture of dread and determination. He wants me to come to him, she said. Creed replied, then we'll go. Aria exhaled. The war for reality had begun, and the clock was still ticking. The Meridian Institute had once been a sanctuary of scientific ambition. Sleek corridors, sterile glass walls, rooms humming with the promise of human advancement. But as Aria and Detective Creed approached its rusted exterior, illuminated by flickering street lamps, it felt more like a mausoleum, a tomb for the truth, a graveyard for forgotten experiments. The building towered before them, hollow and silent, its windows dark like empty eyes. Aria paused outside, breath shallow. The Institute wasn't just a place, it was a memory. It was where she and Elias had dared to imagine they could rewrite the human mind. Creed watched her carefully. You good? Aria nodded, but her voice betrayed her. No, but I have to be. He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We go slow. You walk me through everything. Together they stepped into the building. Inside, dust blanketed every surface, muting footsteps, swallowing echoes. Each room felt frozen in time, equipment covered in sheets, monitors dead, chairs overturned as if abandoned in a hurry. The air smelled of metal and decay. Aria's fingers grazed the wall absent-mindedly. I used to walk this hallway every day, she whispered. Elias and I tested early neuroimplants in Lab C. We ran trial simulations in the virtual cortex rooms. Creed shone his flashlight down the dark corridor. How long since anyone's been here? Years, Aria murmured. After the ethics board shut down the project. Creed's beam passed over a cracked glass door labeled Neural Resonance Lab, authorized personnel only. Aria felt her throat tighten. This was his space. Creed pushed the door open. Inside, dust danced lazily in the flashlight beam. Abandoned equipment lined the counters, neural harnesses, synaptic stimulators, cortical mapping arrays. And at the far end of the room sat a workstation, still powered, glowing faintly like an ember in an otherwise dead fire. Creed moved cautiously. Why is this thing running? Aria stepped closer. On the screen was a single image, the countdown, 4512, still ticking. Elias was here recently, Aria whispered. He's using this place as a relay hub. And probably monitoring us right now, Creed muttered. Aria forced herself to breathe slowly, steadying her racing mind. If Elias wanted her here, he had prepared something. Something elaborate, something dangerous. She leaned closer to the screen. Suddenly the display flickered. A video window opened. Static blurred for a moment. Then Elias Mercer's face filled the screen. This time, not grainy, not distorted, clear, crisp, alive. Hello, Aria, he said calmly. Creed stepped protectively in front of her, but she gently pushed him aside. Elias's gaze followed her every movement, his expression soft, almost nostalgic. You came, he said. Good. Aria's jaw clenched. Stop this. You're manipulating innocent people. You're corrupting their minds. Elias smiled faintly, as though amused by her outrage. No, Aria. I'm liberating them, giving them the flexibility of identity humanity has always lacked. Creed cut in. You're committing felonies, psychological assault, fraud, interference with investigations. Elias dismissed him with a tilt of his head. Detective Creed, always thinking so small. His eyes returned to Aria. You of all people should understand. We were destined to change consciousness. And now, I'm completing the work you were too afraid to finish. Aria's voice trembled. You're destroying lives. I'm freeing them, Elias countered gently. Memories bind people to their mistakes, their traumas, their limitations. Why cling to the past when you can rewrite it? Creed glared. You're rewriting it to protect yourself. Elias smiled again, cold, patient. A pleasant side effect. Aria stepped closer to the screen, anger piercing her fear. What's the countdown for, Elias? He paused, studying her. Then his expression shifted, something darker beneath the surface. In 45 hours, he said softly, every digital memory archive in Halcyon Ridge will be overwritten. Crimes, testimonies, evidence, records, all replaced with reconstructed narratives that I choose. Creed inhaled sharply. You're erasing the city's history. No, Elias corrected. I'm improving it. Aria's voice dropped. You can't possibly think you'll get away with this. Elias's smile widened slightly. Who will stop me? The police? Their memories can be rewritten in minutes. The courts? Their records are already compromised. And civilians? Aria asked. Elias' eyes flickered with something unreadable. They will remember whatever I allow them to. Aria's pulse raced. Why involve me? His face softened in a way that made the room feel smaller, colder. Because you're the only one who could understand the elegance of the design. And because, his smile faded, you were my greatest loss. Silence filled the room like poison. Elias leaned closer to the camera, his eyes piercing through the screen. Stop me if you can. The video cut out. The monitors went dark. The countdown continued. Creed exhaled slowly. This guy is out of his mind, Aria whispered. No, he's out of limits. Creed approached the workstation. Can you track where that video originated? Aria accessed the console, hands moving rapidly. Lines of code scrolled across the screen, encrypted, nested, deliberately tangled. Elias had hidden his location through layers of neural proxies and digital illusions. This system is just a node, Aria said. A breadcrumb. Creed frowned. A trail he wants us to follow. Aria's thoughts raced. He's drawing us into something. She froze as she noticed something at the edge of the desk, a small black case. Her hand hovered over it. Aria? Creed asked. She opened the case. Inside lay a neural implant headset, sleek, silver, unmistakably Elias design. A single device meant for one person. A note lay beneath it, written in Elias's perfect handwriting, for Aria, to remember what you forgot. Her breath caught painfully. Forgot? What did she forget? Creed moved in. Don't touch it. Aria trembled. He wants me to put it on. Which means you shouldn't, Creed pressed. But Aria's eyes were locked onto the device. Elias wasn't just manipulating strangers, he was targeting her. He had implanted her once already. What else had he altered? What had he erased? What part of her identity was a lie? Creed stepped between her and the device. We play this smart, not him. Aria forced herself to step back. Let's search the rest of the Institute, Creed said. There must be more. They moved deeper into the building, past the cognitive modeling hall, past the neuroplasticity wing, past the abandoned quantum servers that once held centuries of potential research. The deeper they went, the colder it felt, as if the building itself was exhaling, breathing out its memories. Finally, they reached a metal door at the far end of a hallway. Aria recognized it instantly. Lab 0, where the first illegal trials had been conducted, where Elias had crossed the line, where 6 subjects had gone missing. Her voice cracked. This room was sealed by the ethics board. Creed pushed the door. It didn't budge. Stand back. He braced himself and rammed his shoulder into it. The metal groaned, rust scraped, and finally, the hinges gave way. The door slammed open. A cold gust swept out of the darkness. Aria stepped inside slowly. The lab was intact, pristine, preserved, as if Elias had been using it recently. And in the center of the room stood a massive neural transfer platform, its lights pulsing faintly. The same model she and Elias had designed years ago. Creed's voice dropped to a whisper. This is where he's doing it. Aria nodded numbly. Where he extracts memories, where he implants them, where he rewrites people. She walked toward the machine. Each step felt heavier than the last. This was where the original crime happened, where the 6 subjects disappeared, where the truth had been lost. Now Elias was trying to erase it forever. Aria reached the console. The interface flickered to life. A single file appeared on the screen, labeled Subject 01, Aria Voss. Her pulse froze. Creed stepped beside her. What is that? Aria's hands shook violently. Elias hadn't just implanted a false memory in her. He had taken something from her, something she once knew, something vital, something he wanted her to rediscover. And the only way to retrieve it was to use the device he left behind. Aria backed away, breath unraveling. He erased something from me, something crucial. Creed's eyes widened. Aria, what if the missing memory is the key to stopping him? She stared at him. I know. Creed placed a steadying hand on her arm. But it could break you. Aria swallowed. If I don't recover it, Elias wins. She looked at the machine again, at the headset, at the screen with her name. at the shadows of her past. This was Elias's game, his mind, his battlefield, and she had just stepped into the center of it. Aria inhaled deeply. "I'm going to retrieve the memory," she said. Creed stepped forward. "Then I'm staying with you, whatever happens." She nodded. The countdown ticked down another minute. 44:58, time was running out, and Aria Voss was about to step inside her own stolen mind. Aria's fingers hovered over the neural headset. Its sleek silver surface reflected the dim light of Lab Zero, an ominous mirror of technology turned weaponized. The device wasn't just a tool, it was a trap, a bridge into her own mind and possibly a prison from which she might never return. Creed's voice broke the tense silence. "Are you sure about this?" Aria met his gaze. "If I don't recover the memory he erased, we can't stop him, and I can't let him rewrite the city's reality." Her voice trembled, but carried the weight of iron resolve. "I have to do this." Creed exhaled and nodded. "Then we do it together, step by step." She took a deep breath and slid the headset over her skull. The moment it settled, a cold hum coursed through her temples, vibrating along neural pathways she didn't know could feel. The lights on the machine flickered, synchronized to her heartbeat. For an instant, the world around her faded. The lab, Creed, even the dim corridors of the Meridian Institute disappeared. She was inside her own mind, or what she remembered of it. The space was vast, surreal. Infinite corridors stretched into darkness, lined with glowing nodes, each representing fragments of memory, some familiar, some alien. A distorted version of her apartment floated nearby, a warehouse she never visited, faces she couldn't place, all tangled threads of her implanted memory. And there, at the edge of vision, a shadow moved with deliberate precision. Elias. He stood at the far end of a corridor lined with flickering memories, his eyes locked on hers. Calm, confident, untouchable. His presence radiated control over her mind, over memories, over reality itself. "Welcome, Aria," he said, his voice echoing through the corridors of her consciousness. "I wondered when you'd come to me." She clenched her fists, feeling the pressure of artificial memories pressing against her mind. "Elias, what did you do to me? Why implant those false memories? Why erase part of my own mind?" He smiled, slowly circling her in this strange, infinite corridor. "You don't understand. I didn't just erase a memory. I removed a constraint, a limitation that held you back. You see, memories bind us to the past, and the past limits what we can do in the present." Aria's pulse raced. "You're insane. You're hurting people, innocent people. You're destroying lives." "And yet," he said softly, leaning closer, "you came to me willingly. You chose to step inside your own mind. That shows your potential and your weakness. Potential to stop me, weakness to fall into my designs." She swallowed, forcing herself to focus. The nodes of memory shifted with every word he spoke. She could see her stolen memories, the ones from the victims implanted by Elias's manipulation, shimmering along the walls like broken constellations. Her attention snapped to one node, a glowing, pulsating fragment, deeper than the rest. Something vital, something real. Something she knew was hers, but couldn't fully grasp. Her missing memory. Elias noticed her focus. "Ah, you found it. The key. But it's protected. You'll need to navigate the maze of falsehoods. Every step you take, a phantom memory will try to mislead you. Every turn, an echo of what you weren't. Can you tell the difference between real and fake, Aria?" Aria's mind sharpened, adrenaline surging. "I have to. I have no choice." The corridor split into two paths, both lined with memories, some vivid, some warped. Each step forward felt heavier, as if gravity itself was tied to her doubts. Faces appeared, friends, colleagues, past patients, all distorted versions whispering false accusations. Each one trying to convince her she was someone else, someone complicit, someone guilty. She stumbled, almost faltering, until a clear, singular memory emerged, her first day at the lab with Elias, uncorrupted, untouched by falsehood. A fragment of warmth, laughter, promise. She seized it, using it as an anchor. The whispers faded, the phantoms recoiled, and she moved forward, closer to the pulsating node, the memory he had stolen. Elias's voice followed her, a haunting melody echoing through her mind. "You're strong, Aria. Strong enough to reach the truth, but weak enough to let me leave my mark." Finally, she arrived at the node. It hovered like a glowing orb, humming with recognition. Her own memory. Vital, precise, and unmistakable. She reached out. As her hand touched it, a shockwave of sensation ripped through her mind. Pain, clarity, rage, and revelation all at once. Visions flashed: the warehouse, the stolen neural research, the victims, the countdown, the implant. And then Elias, his face split with triumph, the realization that she was recovering what he had tried to erase. She gritted her teeth and yanked the memory into herself. Instantly, the corridor stabilized. False memories dissolved. Phantoms vanished. The maze of falsehoods crumbled like ash in the wind. And there, standing before her, the shadow of Elias wavered, less confident, flickering like a bad signal. You took it back," he said, his voice cracking slightly. "Impossible." Aria steadied herself. "Nothing you erase is beyond recovery. I am not yours to manipulate." Elias's figure began to fracture, each step of her clarity eroding his control over her mind. "You can't stop the countdown," he shouted. "The city, the archives. 43 hours, and..." Aria focused. Using her restored memory, she traced the neural pathways Elias had left active in the real world, accessing the projection of his system through her consciousness. With precise movements, she disrupted the pathways, severing his remote connection to the police databases. Back in the lab, the countdown on the monitors began to flicker, slowing, then freezing entirely. 43:12, 40:10, stopping. Creed's eyes widened. "She did it! The countdown, it's frozen!" Aria exhaled, staggering as the neural headset powered down. The lab returned to reality, the cold metal, the dim lights, the faint hum of electronics. Creed rushed to her side. "You okay?" he asked. Aria nodded shakily. "I'm back, but he's still out there, and he'll come for the rest." Creed's jaw tightened. "Then we finish this, now." Aria looked at the inactive neural platform. "He won't risk being caught physically, but he can't hide forever. I have his signature and the pattern of his manipulations. We can track him, locate his physical node. End this before he tries again." Creed nodded. "Let's do it." As they prepared to leave Lab Zero, a faint echo whispered in Aria's mind, a residual fragment of Elias's voice. "You may have reclaimed your memory, Aria, but the game is far from over." She clenched her fists. "Then we play smarter." The two stepped into the corridor, shadows stretching long and distorted across the walls. The Meridian Institute loomed behind them, silent, harboring the remnants of memory manipulation and deceit. Outside, the city of Halcyon Ridge awaited, oblivious to the chaos that had nearly rewritten its history. But one truth was clear: the battle for memory, and for reality, was just beginning. The night outside the Meridian Institute was thick with fog, muffling the distant hum of Halcyon Ridge. Streetlights glimmered weakly through the haze, casting fractured shadows that seemed alive. Aria and Creed moved cautiously, every step echoing with tension. The city was silent, but they both knew it was a fragile calm. Elias Mercer was still out there, watching, planning, and waiting. Creed broke the silence. "Where to first? You have any leads?" Aria shook her head. "Only one possibility: Elias's personal node. Somewhere he's monitoring, controlling, and preparing his next move. If we can shut it down physically, we end this." Creed raised an eyebrow. "And you have a location?" Aria tapped the neural implant she had just removed. "Traces of his signal are still embedded here. It's weak, fragmented, but consistent. A warehouse near the old industrial district. He's using it as a base of operations." The industrial district was a labyrinth of rusted cranes, abandoned factories, and graffiti-streaked walls. They approached cautiously, Creed scanning every shadow, Aria feeling the residual hum of neural interference prickling her skin. The further they went, the stronger the presence grew, the unmistakable signature of Elias's technology, alive and thrumming. Finally, they arrived at a decrepit warehouse. Broken windows, chained doors, and the faint blue glow of equipment visible from within. Aria's pulse quickened. "This is it." Creed moved to the side. "Ready?" Aria nodded. "Let's end this." They slipped inside. The interior was vast, filled with crates of neural equipment, cables snaking across the floor, and banks of humming monitors. And at the center, Elias Mercer stood, calm, composed, as if expecting them. "Ah, Aria," he said smoothly, hands clasped behind his back. "Detective Creed, welcome. I wondered when you'd arrive." Creed leveled his gun. "Step away from the equipment, Elias." Elias smiled faintly. "I was hoping it wouldn't come to this, but you leave me no choice." Aria stepped forward, voice firm. "It's over, Elias. I've reclaimed my memory. Your implants are useless now. The city's archives are safe." Elias shook his head. "You think you've won? This is only the beginning. You've recovered a fraction of what I've planned." Creed advanced. Not if we destroy the node. Elias' expression darkened. In a fluid motion, he reached for a control panel. Lights flashed, and the machinery whirred, the monitors coming alive with streams of neural code. Aria felt the pulse of it in her mind, a cold, invasive echo. "You'll never stop me," Elias said. "Even if this node is destroyed, the networks are redundant. Copies exist. Memories are fluid, manipulable. I am inevitable." Aria's mind raced. Not if we cut the source. She scanned the room, noticing a series of power conduits feeding the main server. "Creed, cover me. I'll override the main console." As Creed provided cover, Aria rushed to the control panel. Fingers flying over the interface, she uploaded a shutdown sequence designed to sever Elias's connection to the city's memory grids. Sparks flew as circuits overloaded. Monitors flickered, alarms blared. Elias cursed, rushing toward her. "You dare!" Aria spun, keeping her focus, overriding the system. The countdown she had frozen before now appeared again, this time linked directly to the node's core processing power. 42, 4212. The clock was still dangerous, still ticking, but the shutdown sequence was progressing. Creed intercepted Elias, forcing him back, buying Aria precious seconds. Elias snarled, fighting, trying to regain control. But Aria's determination was absolute. She had reclaimed herself. She had reclaimed the memory he tried to erase, and with each keystroke, each override, she dismantled the web he had woven across the city. Finally, the core processors glowed red, then black. The humming of the neural node died. The monitors went dark. Elias stepped back, disbelief etched on his face. Aria exhaled, dropping to her knees, exhausted but victorious. "It's over." Elias glared at her. "Over? You think you've stopped me? You cannot stop what is already in motion." Creed restrained him. "You're coming with us." Elias' lips twisted. "You think capturing me ends this? There are other nodes, other copies. The work is unstoppable." Aria stood, determined. "Not anymore. We've traced every redundant copy, every network, every implant. Your system is dismantled. Your control over the city ends tonight." Elias' expression faltered. For the first time, he looked vulnerable. You're stronger than I anticipated." Creed cuffed him. "Too bad for you." Elias' hands remained raised, the defiance in his eyes flickering. Aria stepped closer. "You were brilliant, Elias, but brilliance without conscience is destruction, and we stopped you." The room fell silent. Only the faint hum of electricity in the now-dead machinery remained. Outside, Halcyon Ridge slept peacefully, unaware of how close it had come to being rewritten. Aria finally allowed herself to breathe. The stolen memories of the victims, the false confessions, the implanted guilt, all would be undone. The city's reality, its history, and its people were safe again. Creed looked at her, exhausted but resolute. "We did it." Aria nodded, feeling a weight lift from her chest. "We did, but I'll never forget how fragile memory is, how easily truth can be rewritten." Creed placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we make sure it never happens again." Aria looked out the broken windows of the warehouse, toward the foggy streets of Halcyon Ridge. The city was alive, unaware, resilient, and so was she. Stronger, wiser, and ready to protect reality itself. And as Elias Mercer was led away, Aria knew the battle for memory and for truth was over for now. Halcyon Ridge woke to a fragile morning. Mist rolled across the streets, curling around lampposts and empty alleyways. The city felt unchanged, yet everything had shifted in subtle, unseen ways. Memories that could have been stolen, altered, or erased now stood intact. The truth, fragile but preserved, was safe for now. Aria Voss walked along the quiet streets, her coat drawn tightly against the chill. The events of the past 48 hours weighed on her heavily. The stolen memories, the implanted guilt, the false confessions, they had all been real experiences in a way, even if they weren't hers. She had felt them, lived them, and now she carried the knowledge of how vulnerable the human mind could be. Detective Rowan Creed walked beside her, silent for a moment, letting the fog settle between them. Then he asked softly, "Do you think it's really over?" Aria considered it. Elias Mercer had been captured, the nodes destroyed, the city's archives secured. But she knew him. Brilliant, meticulous, and ruthless. Even behind bars, he would continue to scheme, to experiment, to manipulate, if he could find the opportunity. She shook her head. "No, but it's over for now. He's contained, his system is dismantled, and we've learned just how dangerous memory can be when someone treats it like data instead of reality." Creed's gaze swept over the city skyline, glowing faintly in the early morning light. You saved more than just evidence. You saved the city itself. People's lives, their truths, even if they don't know it. Aria let out a quiet, ironic laugh. Saved the city, and yet I feel like the one who needed saving most. He looked at her sharply. You? Why? Her eyes drifted toward a familiar warehouse district in the distance. The Meridian Institute, silent now, a mausoleum of ambition and hubris. Because I realized how easily my own mind could be hijacked, how fragile my own sense of reality was. If I hadn't reclaimed that memory, I don't know who I'd be now. Creed frowned. And Elias? She exhaled slowly. He's locked away, but he taught me something I can't unlearn. Memory is power. Identity is fragile. Truth is the most dangerous thing of all. They walked in silence for a few blocks. Then Aria's hand brushed over a small notebook in her coat pocket. She had carried it since the night the first false memories were discovered. A journal of observations, neural signatures, and insights Elias had inadvertently left behind. She opened it carefully, flipping through the pages. Patterns emerged, faint but distinct. Clues to methods Elias had never fully implemented, possibilities for new types of memory research, ethical boundaries, and dangers. The work he left behind could have destroyed the city, or, if used wisely, could save countless minds in the future. Aria closed the notebook and looked at Creed. We have a choice now. We can use this knowledge to protect people, or we can bury it so no one ever uses it again. Creed nodded. I trust you'll make the right call. Aria's gaze lifted toward the rising sun breaking through the fog. It painted the city in shades of gold and gray, beautiful, chaotic, human. She allowed herself a moment to breathe, to reclaim her sense of self fully, untainted by Elias's manipulation. But even in that quiet victory, a shadow lingered at the edges of her mind. Residual fragments of false memories, tiny echoes Elias might have left behind, a reminder that the battle for truth was ongoing, subtle, and eternal. A soft vibration from her coat pulled her attention. She glanced at her phone, a new message from an unknown number. It simply read, "Impressive, but the game has only begun." Her breath caught. For a moment, doubt and fear clawed at her, but then she closed her eyes, steadied herself, and smiled faintly. "Yes," she whispered, "the game has only begun, but now I'm ready." Creed looked at her curiously. Ready for what? Aria opened her eyes, fierce and resolute. For whatever comes next, whoever tries to rewrite reality will be ready, because truth is ours to protect. The city stretched endlessly before them, a labyrinth of stories, memories, and lives. And in that moment, Aria felt a strange calm, like the weight of possibility balanced on the edge of certainty. She had seen how fragile the mind could be, how dangerous knowledge could become, and she had chosen to fight for it. As they walked toward the dawn, the fog began to lift, revealing the streets of Halcyon Ridge bathed in pale sunlight. Somewhere, in a secured cell, Elias Mercer sat quietly, plotting, scheming, and waiting for the next opportunity. But for now, the city and Aria remained unbroken. The memory war was over. The thief of minds had been stopped, and the fragile, brilliant human mind had endured. But deep down, Aria knew one truth. The next battle would be even darker, even more cunning. Because memory, once stolen, could never truly be trusted again. And as she walked forward into the new day, she carried not just her recovered memory, but a new understanding, a weapon against chaos, a shield for truth, and a promise to herself. She would never let reality be rewritten, not by anyone, ever again.